guys, welcome back to Medical Coding with Blue. Today's episode is all about what I learned in my first year as a medical coder. If you're brand new to my channel, welcome. I am Blue, I'm a medical coder. Okay guys, so when I look back on my 15 years as a medical coder, there are certain points throughout my career that have really been impactful. The first year obviously being the most impactful because the first year is the year that you really learn about yourself and your strengths. Because for me, my first year was a very tough year, but I learned a lot about my strength and I learned a lot about the things that I was able to manage in the time that I was able to manage it in that year. The first year I had 3 jobs. I moved around 3 times, and the third time was a charm. Third time was when I found my forever home. But my first job, I was working at a cancer therapy research center, and we were working from paper records. Paper records that we had to code, we had to use our books to code from. And so that experience was really interesting because I learned a lot about coworkers in that first experience. So when I was coding, they gave us a stack of records. They didn't assign us records, but what they told us to do was they told us to, this is your stack for the day, and you have to take one and then code it and then put it back and then get another one. And that was how we did it. Well, they started talking to us about productivity, because after the first 3 weeks or so, we were all getting the hang of it. And this was all of our first job, right? And because we'd all gotten hired with the temp agency. And so about 3 weeks in, they were like, okay, well, we need y'all to start coding a little bit more, and we need to start working on productivity. So I was like, okay, And so as we were going through, of course, there's times when you're going to get easy records, and there's going to be ones that are not so easy. Turns out I learned that my coworker had gone through the stack of records that we were supposed to go through, and she had taken all of the easy ones because they were doing shots that day. And so she took out all the shots and she did all the shots, and leaving me and the other lady that was working with really hard charts. And we didn't know. At the time, we did not know that this is what happened, because we were like, gosh, all of these are hard today. I didn't get any injections, And so we learned later that what she had done, but she was looking out for herself. And that's what she said. She was looking out for herself, and she wanted to get a lot done. She wanted to look good. And we were like, oh, okay. That's an interesting, approach to teamwork, but that was my first experience with coders who skip charts, right? But this was like in-person skipping, so it was a different experience. You learn from that. And I think that experience kind of like, okay, gets you a little bit more like your eyes are opening up. Like, not everybody is going to be looking out for you when you're starting out, and that sometimes you have to look out for yourself, but you got to be smart. You can't leave your teammates in the dust, even though some of them will leave you in the dust happily, but I was okay. I thought, all right, well, if she takes the easy ones, I'm going to get better with the harder ones. My first year, the whole mantra that I had for that year was I could not fail. That was the first year. I could not fail. I could not fail to get a job because I was going through a divorce at the time, and I had moved back home with my mom, and my mom was sick, and I wanted to make my life better. I was coming out of a marriage that had been going on for many, many years, and it was heartbreak. But at the same time, it was like, I can't fail at this. I can't fail to get a job because I need to get back up on my feet. I cannot fail to be, when I'm in the job, I can't fail at the job. I have to make sure that I am learning, and I have to make sure that I am applying myself, and I have to make sure that I'm doing all the things that I need to in order to be successful. And I didn't want to disappoint my mom. Like I said, my mom was sick at the time, and I wanted her to be proud of everything that I did. And of course she was, and that's the thing she would tell me is like, I'm so proud of you because this is an incredible thing that you're doing. And she would help me to study. She would make flashcards and she would drill with me. And, she's a big part of why I'm a coder today. I owe all of my success to her because she was my support and she's my everything, And I lost her. She passed away a year into my career, but she got to see me. She got to see me get to my forever home job and, get myself established here. And I know that she was really proud of that, So, but I had that in my mind that I could not quit and I had to succeed. That was my whole mantra for that year. So at the end of those 3 months, when that first assignment ended, I got sent to my second assignment, and that was for 8 months. And I knew I could not fail at that one either. But at that one, I learned a lot more. I had moved far, far away from home, and being there at this place, I had no friends. I didn't know anybody. My mom was still living in my hometown, and I was just like, she was like, you can always come back and forth, and it's a very short flight. It's not that long, and you can get your experience. You can come back. And so that's what I did. And so when I worked at my second job, we did a lot of overtime. We were always doing overtime. And so I learned during overtime, and I learned during that time, they were like, it's about getting these records coded and how can we get more efficient with this. And I learned with the electronic medical record, there's certain things that there were certain steps that we were doing that were redundant steps and that we didn't need to do. So I was learning how to be more efficient with those steps, get the record coded, but not have to do all these extra backtracking things. And they were like, oh, well, that works even better. So I was able to learn that when I was there. And doing all that and really getting better at the craft of coding for professional fee services was the whole thing back then. So I read a lot in that first year about professional fee coding services and things, because when I got there, my supervisor was saying, Blue, we can't keep anybody in this clinic, and everybody that gets put in this clinic always quits. And I said, well, I just moved here and I can't quit. So you're stuck with me. And she said, well, that's great news. And so I learned a lot from her. My first supervisor was a lady named Jessica. Amazing. I consider her my friend to this day. I love her. She is the best coder I have ever known. Literally the best coder I've ever known. She is incredibly intelligent, and I miss her so much. We don't get to talk as much anymore, unfortunately. But like I said, I miss my friend Jessica. She was really awesome. She taught me a lot about professional fee coding. When she explained it, she was just like, okay, it's this, this, and this, and this. And she has an incredible way of teaching. And so you pick up those things too. You learn from other people, like, this worked for me, and she explained it like this, so I can incorporate this, and I can, when I'm helping somebody else out, that might help them. So again, I learned a lot. And doing all that, I was able to gain a lot of skill while I was there, coding for professional fee. And that experience was what landed me in my forever home. And I had applied for my forever home because I was trying to get back to my hometown. And I always want to tell the story and not cry, so I'm trying really hard not to. But the closest I could get to my hometown was here. And I had been here, I had lived here before, and where I live now in my forever home. But I didn't think about it, and then when I saw the job listing, I was like, oh, they're looking for a professional fee coder. I'm like, that's fantastic. I can do that. And so I applied, I got the interview, and if you've been on my channel, you know the story. It was a fantastic interview. I still say that's like the best interview that I ever had, where I was so confident and that I knew I had it. And so I didn't get the call the first time when they had asked me. They were like, okay, well, if you get selected, how soon could you start? And I said, oh, 2 weeks to the day I get the call. Well, lo and behold, I didn't get the call. And of course, I call and I tell my mom, and I'm like, Mom, I didn't get the call. And my mom was like, it's not your time yet. It's not your time yet. And so I ended up seeing the same job opening again. And about a month and a half later, and then I applied for it again. I said, that was a good interview. That was a good interview. I know I got it. But you know what? I'm going to apply for it again anyway, because they're going to see my face. They're going to know I applied again. And my mom was like, go for it, go for it. And sure enough, I got it. And this was a even better position than the first time. So I had to move yet again. My mom helped me move. And then when I got here, right? And when I got here, I learned a lot about different leadership styles. So I came to a supervisor. I came from a supervisor who was laid back and really cool and is very she loves books. She's like me, loves books. To a she used to be a drill sergeant, and and you better write emails correctly. She was very much about professional emails. Like, you had to write professional emails. She wanted everybody addressed as Miss or Mrs. or Mr. or, whatever, doctor or whatever. She wanted everybody to write their emails in a way that was very professional, and for everybody to use respectful language when they're speaking to each other. You could not call a provider by their first name. There's very few providers that I will ever do that. They tell me sometimes it's okay, it's cool, but I still call them doctor. But depending on who it is, because some doctors, you're a little bit more okay, with calling them by their first name. It feels weird though. To me, it feels weird, because I came from a time where you called adults, Mrs. or Mr., you call them that. You don't call them by their first name. And I always said, oh my gosh, that's disrespectful. But, it's not, it depends on your friendship and everything else with that person, So, but yeah, that's what I learned. And when I first got here, my boss, again, she was amazing. When it comes to leadership, she obviously has the training for it, but she was a type of person that she's the type of leader, and this is an example of a leader that I think is the way that all leaders should be, because it was not about directing people. It was about caring for the people in her charge. That's the way that she looked at leadership. And she knew everybody's story. Everybody. And there was 50 some odd of us, 52, 53 of us, coders, and she knew everybody's story. She knew all of our quirks. She knew everything about us. She knew it, and she had her hand on everything. But you didn't want to disappoint her. You did not want to disappoint her at all. She expected you. She gave you her expectations. She expected you to do your research. She expected you to work things out with your coworkers. She did not allow disrespect for coworkers, between coworkers. She did not allow that. I learned that because the girls, when I got there, the girls weren't, the clinic that I got into, professional fee, the girls were already bonded, and they did not want anybody in their group. Least of all, they did not want me in their group. And they let me know it. And so when I asked my boss, I was like, hey, these girls are already established. They don't want to talk to me. They want to hide work from me. They want to keep me from getting to the records. So I think I should be put into another clinic. And she's like, no. And I said, no. And she goes, no. She goes, I want you in this position, Blue. I need you in this position, because you're a strong coder. You code a lot, and you get right to the point, and you know a lot, and you can teach these girls some things just like they can teach you. I said, but they're not talking to me, and so it's one of those things that the way she handled it was pretty awesome when I look back on it now. Because one girl was very nice, but she was very close to the girl that was very mean. And so, yeah, there was a mean girl the first year. And so we're okay now. Me and the mean girl, we're okay now. We're pretty cool, but, it's coworkers, I see her occasionally. We don't work. She doesn't work at the facility anymore, and she hasn't worked at our facility for quite some time. But we do see each other occasionally, and it's weird how you can get along with somebody that they used to make your life miserable and they would be mean. She would be mean. And so I was going through this in my first year, right? And so my boss was like, hey, you girls, I want to talk to both of you. I know that y'all aren't talking to each other because, I know that, Blue's coming in and she's, this new coder and, maybe you don't like that, but too bad. You need to get along. You two both need to work it out. And if not, I'm going to write you both up. And I'm looking at her like, are you serious? Like, are you for real? Like, did you not hear me when I told you everything that she did? And you know what? It worked. It worked because the mean girl was like, well, she kind of backed down and she was like, I don't want to get written up because of you. And I'm like, well, hello, so, but you learn a lot about coworkers in that first year, I'm telling you. And I don't tell you guys to be, to scare you. I'm just telling you that this was my experience, and it made me tougher today, Now, with coworkers, you take it with a grain of salt, and you take it like if anybody's trying to be mean or whatever. I know it's not me. And at the time, I wasn't evolved enough to know that it wasn't about me. She was going through a lot of things, and so was I. I mean, as far as some, going through everything that I was going through at the time. And so, it was just a perfect storm of things that happened in that first year. And so she was going through things too. But at the time, I didn't know about, it's not about me, it's about the other person. Because you ever encounter somebody that they're suddenly being mean to you, and it has nothing to do with you, it's just that they're just going through something and they're taking it out on you. So how are you going to respond? Are you going to respond like normally, like, well, what's with your attitude? Or are you going to say, okay, well, they're going through something, you just got to let it go. And so I'm more that way now because I've learned. I learned a lot, again, about that. And so I was like, okay. And so now, we work things out. Everything worked itself out. And again, having such a strong leader to be able to make that happen without making it happen. She let it happen organically between her, the mean girl, and myself. And so that was just, it's something when you start learning from those types of people. She moved on, my boss, she moved on about a year and a half after I had gotten there. And so, I mean, it was hard to see her go. I mean, because everything was like, okay, everything was like a well-oiled machine, She knew how to run the department. And so, but, again, it just goes back to people when they've grown so much in a certain place, and then they can't grow anymore, they know they have to move on. And that was her. She went on and she's doing great things now. I still see her occasionally, and we still catch up whenever I do see her and I get a chance to talk to her. So, but the last time I talked to her when it was I talked to her after my 10-year anniversary, but I really got to talk to her at my 10-year anniversary. So at my facility, if you reach certain points in your career, like at 10 years, 15 years, 25 years, you get pins, right? And so at my 10-year anniversary, which I was like, this is incredible. It is incredible that I made it, 10 years at a certain place. And so I had emailed her because, again, we don't work on the same floor, but I knew how to email her. And I was like, hey, I just wanted to tell you that I made it 10 years. And I said, I just want to thank you because you were very influential in my career in the beginning, and I really I admire your leadership style and everything that I've learned from you. And she's like, oh my gosh, Blue. She's like, really? She's like, I can't believe it's already been 10 years. And I'm like, yeah. At the time, I was like, oh yeah. I had felt every bit of that 10 years too at the time, and I started laughing. And then so she's like, wow. She's like, I'm really proud of you. That's amazing. That's amazing, you know. And so, but I say all this to say that first year that you get into this amazing career field, everybody's journey is different. But I think how you take everything that comes at you is really ultimately going to be your reason for maintaining yourself in the field or getting out and running for the hills, you know. Hopefully not running for the hills, because, you know, sometimes on those bumpy days when you think, gosh, do I really want to do this? Do I want to put up with, you know, all of these updates and all these things? And then you think about all the good times, like all the fun things that you get to do, and those winning moments where you are doing really well at your audits, where your audits come back and you have 100% on your audits in all categories. That's pretty incredible. I mean, of course they find some things, right? But I had never seen one where I had just gotten, but that was pretty awesome, you know. It was pretty awesome. And it was never, my audits have never been bad, you know what I mean? Like, you have to really miss a lot in order for like an audit to go bad. But it does happen, you know. But like I said, it's never been bad, you know. But this one was like perfect score, 100 all the way across the board. So I thought that was pretty cool. And, you know, it does something to you. It gives you a lot of motivation. It gives you a lot of inspiration to keep going and to learn more and to really dig into the study part of it all. And then you get more and more experiences like that. You get to help other people to learn. And, you know, I should talk about the year that we went into ICD-10, because that was a big learning year for all of us. We all had to relearn coding that year. We all had to relearn coding that year because we were going from ICD-9 to ICD-10. And if you've ever had any experience coding in ICD-9 versus ICD-10, you know it is a completely different ball field. I mean, it's just completely different from anything. You know, they're two completely separate code sets, completely. And no, we do not use ICD-9 codes anymore. So, but anyway, yeah, that was my first year. My first year of a lot of ups and downs. But more ups, I think, when I look back on it, that it was a lot of learning, and it was a really great year because I learned so much. And from that time, that, you know, you start building into a new career. And when I think back at everything it's given me so far, I think I lucked out, you know. I do, because I really love what I do, you know. But you don't love what you do if you run away from it. It is for better or for worse. Literally, for better or for worse, that you will take it. And there will be things that will frustrate you in that first year. There will be things that you think that you will never get, but you do. You do end up getting them. And then once that becomes easy, then you go on to the next thing. And then you go on to the next thing, and the next thing, and the next thing. But anyway, that's my episode for today. Thank you guys so much for joining me. If this video helped you, or if you enjoyed it, please like, subscribe, and share, and I'll see y'all next time. Bye!